Parenting is an adventure, and like any other adventure, you've got to work hard and be prepared.
The quest is on.
We're in search for all things parenting. We hear from the kids, from the professionals, and from you, real parents on real issues. It's all happening right here, right now on Care.
Care, the adventures of parenting.
Hi, welcome to Care and a happy Father's Day to all our dads out there. To those, I'm going to have to give a special Father's Day to Richard, who is my daughter's, we don't call him stepdaddy because he has totally taken over the role. So happy Father's Day to Richard and to all the other amazing dads out there. We have a very special episode today. It is the importance of fatherhood, the importance of our daddies in society. Joining us, we have Deborah Lewis. Deborah is an executive director at Mama Toto and still a practicing midwife. We have Delano Sanchez. I know Delano because I know his son. And he leads by example. He's always there, very interested, always helping out. You know, he's not one of those that are just kind of like on the phone and somebody else is coaching, jumps in. So I'm really happy to have him here. And he is a part of the support group that Dr. Peter Weller he facilitates. So Peter Weller is a clinical psychologist. I think I might have to read all the things that he is. So he's a clinical psychologist. He is the founder of CARIMAN, which is Caribbean Male Action Network. And well, of course, he's the facilitator of Mama Toto's Father Support Group. I did not even know that there was a father support group. So, first question I'm going to ask is, do you have to be a biological daddy so Richard could join this group? Anybody can
Absolutely. The group is for fathers to be fathers of any age children, and doesn't matter if they're biological fathers. Anybody interested in fatherhood, anything.
Awesome sauce. We need to join. So, well, we'll give all that information coming down to the end, how we join and stuff, right? Because I'm very excited. I think we need all the support we can get. It takes a village to raise a kid, and I'm sure you will tell us how integral that support group was for you. Yeah?
So I sort of more went to share my experiences because, as she said, it's for everybody. It could be giving back to people who are new fathers, or it could be to get support. I think I had kind of reached over the hump where I felt comfortable, so I didn't go necessarily for support, but I went there to see if anybody needed to get any advice on, you're now having a young baby, how to help mommy, what to expect, and, just relax, calm down.
And that's pretty amazing. A lot of people join just to get, right?
Yeah.
So many people don't join to say, okay, what can I give? What can I bring to the table?
Yeah.
So let's hear a little bit about your sons. Tell us who you are. Tell our audience who you are.
So I will be Delano Sanchez, dad of two for this one.
How old are your children?
Luca is 6 and Maya is going to be 2 in July.
So you have a 2-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy.
Yes.
Are boys different to girls?
Yes. And I would say firstborn is different from the second as well, because the second is observing the first and is doing things a little bit faster than the first. And then the first, at least the parents are very sometimes overprotective. So, if he was about to fall, I'm going to go catch him. Whereas she has to learn that kids are running around and she has to brace. And she's like, hey, stay away from me, don't knock me down kind of thing. So boys and girls, yes, they are different. We kept her away from dolls and stuff like that, but somehow she gravitated towards that sort of nurturing instinct. So I do see a difference.
So all of this happens at the support group? You guys talk about all these kind of things?
Talk about all kind of things. I mean...
Well, let's hear. What do y'all talk about?
Well, some of the things that Delano mentioned in terms of preparing for fatherhood and the doubts and the fears, the dealing with the baby and the transition into the family. But then, we end up talking a lot about their family of origin and their growing up years and what they learned from their father or absence of their father, the relationship with their mother. And then we get into the relationship with the mother of a child and how that has changed or could change. And remember, some of the men in the group don't have children yet. Some, their partner is pregnant, but some, they're just looking ahead.
Right.
So you're getting a lot of perspectives. And of course, culture comes into it because in Trinidad it's very diverse. You have religion, you have race. And so that becomes an issue in terms of belief systems and attitudes. Really interesting conversations.
Maybe we should get our camera guy to look into
No,
one of those sessions.
I don't think so. because one of the important things that makes that group work is that it's private, it's confidential.
Yeah, amongst men.
You feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
that
like,
helps, being amongst just men.
yeah, it's like the equivalent of you're playing football and you're having drinks afterwards, and then the guy is comfortable enough to talk about whatever. But in a not so, you used to say not trivialize some of the issues, because when you're around your friends, you tend to laugh things off and you wouldn't get too serious. But in this one, it's like, it's okay to, you have a genuine concern. People kind of respect that, you know, if you bring up something, they're going to laugh at you or whatever, right? You know, you have a
And we
professional
get to do
here.
it without alcohol.
Yeah.
But seriously, men.
Oh my goodness,
very
you
often
might
men
have
think,
just turned off half of my audience.
well, your audience need to understand that as men, we can talk serious business without alcohol. You don't have to have that to lubricate.
We get a buffet, boy.
No, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing.
So what are some of the fears that the guys bring up, you find, that, you know, sort of like top 3 fears of a dad?
Well, I can say you roll within the first, let's say, baby stage, where mommy is, you know, center of attention for the baby. Like, how do I fit in? How do I contribute? You know, sometimes dads might feel a little useless unless they have specific defined roles. So for me, I was just to provide support wherever mommy needs and help, because I knew once you're there, you spend time with your child, that imprint is happening. And you may not see it right away, but like for my kids, once they start turning 2, they're now looking for me rather than just mommy. So there's a specific role that I have assumed. So it become a lot more fun, like when they become a 1.5 years onwards. But for that first 1.5 years, I think the dad needs to be patient and know that supporting and being there is allowing the child to, you know, observe you and, you know, feed off of your energy. And mommy, of course, needs you to, you know, man up. And not be too needy at that point in time.
Right.
I don't know if I'm being mean, but I just saying it's like,
I'm gonna go on a break because I see Peter about to, he's itching there to answer. But
man, good
what
stuff,
I
good
wanna touch on the uselessness of dads when we come back, because you did a TED talk and my eye opened up when we spoke about just the importance of having the dad in the room during birth, which, you know, well, he ain't doing nothing, useless, what you do there for, you know. And there were a lot of things that came out of that. So we're going to talk about the usefulness of dads and, you know, not just think that, you know, well, y'all just here. Yeah. Okay? So don't go anywhere. It's all about dads and the importance of dads when we get back. We're watching K. Welcome back to Care. Happy Father's Day. And to celebrate all our dads, we are discussing the importance of fatherhood and the importance of daddies. So joining us, if you are just joining us, on set today we have Dr. Peter Weller, who is a clinical psychologist. We have Delano, who is a dad of 2, but he is part of the support group that Mama Toto has. And Mama Toto's representative is Deborah, and Deborah is also a midwife. Deborah is going to explain to us the usefulness of dads, because Delano said one of the fears are we feel useless. We're not really sure, because, you know, the mom's breastfeeding, the mom's doing everything. What do you need us to do, you know?
Right. And so I really feel like that's one of the areas that as a society we failed in, because we do make fathers feel relatively useless. And I mean, their involvement really should start way before pregnancy, but as a midwife, pregnancy is where I first meet them. So in pregnancy, we encourage them to come for the visits, for example. But do we actually include them? Being present in the room with the focus still on the woman and her needs and so on. Yes, that's the priority, but we also need to engage them and find out what their needs are. What are their thoughts? So for example, one of the things that Mama Toto has done is that we've actually created a handout specifically for fathers around the pregnancy and so on, and needs and areas that have been identified in the support group primarily about their fears, their concerns, the things they want to know more about. And then of course for the birth, as you know, my usual example is they can be in the opposite corner with their backs turned and still have an immense impact. Just their presence, never mind when they're actually engaged and involved. But again, identifying what, because men have a lot of fear around birth. You know, it's a big shift for them as well. But do we really talk about it? And do we identify that? No. So that's an area that Mama Toto is consciously working on, which is part of the reason that we've even given the space for the support group, because they don't want any of us in the support group.
So no women allowed, not even the
No.
professionals.
Not even the
No, to
professionals.
be honest, there have been times when we've had representatives of Mama Toto there, you know, to provide specific information and so on. But in terms of the rap session and the peer support, no, it's all the men. That's all
All right,
dads.
well, that's okay. We kick you all out sometimes as well. What are some of the benefits? You know, scientific, research, proven benefits of having the dads around pregnancy, being in the room. What are some of those benefits?
So we're not, in this region, we're not really good with research, but there's been a lot of research done in Europe and in the United States, and it absolutely shows that, for example, breastfeeding rates, when the father is involved and supportive, breastfeeding rates can even triple. In a country where one study was done. If a baby is born small, for example, and in the neonatal intensive care unit, there have been studies that have shown weight gain is better. The baby improves faster when the father is present and engaged in the care. But, you know, we still have hospitals, for example, that will only allow the mothers in. Or that will only allow the discharge to be handled by the mother. So those are the types of things we have to look at changing, because fathers have their impact when they're involved. And the other thing is that they do not have to even be in the same household. So
Right.
even fathers who are living outside of the household where the child is can have an impact. It's their involvement. And their genuine involvement, not just being present, but engaged.
How was it to be, I'm assuming you were in the room.
Yes, I laugh when she said they could stand up in the corner, because I haven't been through it. I know that that's probably a fear that shouldn't be something that you think about so much, because the way it is, you're not front and center, right? You're not the one delivering the baby. You're in the room and you'll find a comfortable spot, even if it means going outside. But it's not, they don't have to worry about, I know what they're worried about. They don't have to be front and
So
center.
were you not holding Candace's hand?
Yes, I was behind her, and if she wanted me to, we had a doula as well, at least for Luca, and that's a professional massage.
Yes,
we said,
yeah.
right? But the state of mind of the mom and relaxation, I think, is one of the key parts of birth. And your body being relaxed, your mind being at ease. And I think that's where the dad comes in, because you're familiar, you have a relationship with the mommy. And even if you don't, you can provide support, just being there. Sometimes the mommy might say, I don't want daddy around, and it might mean standing outside, right? But yeah, I think being there at birth, mommy knows she's not alone. And if she wants you there, then you're there. And you're not going to be scared of what you see or don't see. Because if you feel like that, I'm sure everybody will say, oh, it's okay, you can go in the waiting room or whatever. So I think it's important.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to go to finance and the family, because, of course, all of this takes money. And having your finances under wrap always helps with everything else. Don't go anywhere. Finance and the family is up next. And then we come back to our wonderful guests.
Never underestimate the power of a little goes a long way. If all you can save every week is $5, then save it. After 3 months, increase that 5 to 6. You will progressively learn to live on less while you gradually save more. After another 3 months, raise the $6 to $7. This slow and steady process will help you to bring down your spending and increase your savings over time, and bit by bit your emergency fund will be filled and you will be able to move on to more exciting funds like the startup capital for your dream business or a dream vacation for you and your family.
Welcome back to Care. Today it is all about the importance of fathers, and we left off with an important part where we started to go into, even if fathers are not in the home, they can have a relationship. I know during the break I had to control Dr. Weller. We had to keep him on because it was like, stop it! Oh.
No, because I think it's something that we don't really talk about enough, which is the fact that when a man and a woman are having a child, and I won't even say if it's intended, planned, or whatever, but it's happening, it changes the relationship. Then it's no longer a relationship about two intimate, sexual, romantic relationship people. It's now co-parenting. And I think that having the father present during and involved with the pregnancy and the birth is part of that redefining moment that changes it from sweetie pie, darling, let's lime, to okay, so what we're going to do?
We're not playing Dolly House no more.
Yeah, and what school is he going to go to? And is he going to go to confirmation classes? And how are we going to circumcise him? And is she going to get dollies that look like you or like me? Those are the kinds of conversations that are part. And I think one of the things that comes up with some of, especially our younger fathers, is that they've never considered the process of fatherhood. They're into it, they want to be involved, but they have no clue that this is now about sharing the care. It's about coming up with common ideas and so on. It's a whole other kind of relationship. And we don't really do very well at talking about it or teaching about it.
Yeah. So what are some of the conversations that we should be having? Guide our dads out here.
I think, first of all, dads need to be aware of the complexity of parenting. And for many dads, they didn't have a present father. Therefore, they never experienced it or even observed the negotiation between the father and the mother, which is really what it's all about. So I think that there's an important part about just understanding that this is a process and it's a new thing. And then it's about negotiating the relationship. There are all of these issues that have to be decided. Everything from, are you going to let the baby cry it out, or are you going to hush them? Simple things like that. And granny on one side will say, hug up the baby, don't let them cry. And somebody on the other side will say, let him cry it out. If you hug him up or hug her up, she'll never learn to control herself. Lots of theories, and then some of them are very culture-bound, some are very religious. There are a lot of conversations that men and women should have before.
Well, yes.
Well, before they even think of having a child.
Before we even get into a relationship and start to have sex, we should be having these conversations,
but
right?
once you're doing it.
But we don't. And unfortunately, we do live in a society where most of us become parents by chance and not by choice, unfortunately. You know, you use the word man up. Sometimes we really just have to man up and say, listen, this is what we've done, and we're going to have to be, you know, do the best that we can. I know you look like you wanted to say something there while he was talking.
Yeah, because as far as all the outside advice, if the father decides this is my child, and you take on that confident role, you have to decide now how much outside advice you're going to take. Of course, this is negotiating with mommy, because mommy might have her own ideas about what she wants. So I think if you get pregnant, having a baby, there's enough time during those coming months to have those discussions, as long as you're aware that you need to have those discussions.
Exactly.
There needs to be awareness. Prepare yourself, because once a baby does come, things start moving fast.
Really quickly.
Yeah, and there's, we are resilient people as human beings. We will survive regardless of the situation. But you know, there was always some way to better navigate. And mommy and daddy being on the same page is definitely going to be better for all parties concerned. You know, my wife got tons of books. This whole crying out thing, we did try it, and then we were like, hell, no. Against advice of other people, but that was not for us. And the good thing about it I can say is that we were on the same page. I think sometimes dads feel I have to take a backseat and my voice is not important. And I will let granny decide what happens. You know, depending on the situation, that mightn't be a bad thing. But maybe mommy might get annoyed with you for doing that. Maybe your mom is contributing more than you, and mommy is not appreciating that, right?
Right.
So all of those dynamics.
Both of y'all is looking like y'all want to chime in here.
Well, I mean, it's because I think at the center of a lot of what Delano is saying is really communication. And that communication needs to start early, not at the moment that the baby is born or at the moment that a situation arises. And so that then parents need to be encouraged to start those conversations, because it is things about what are we going to do. Let the baby sleep in the bed or not, let the baby cry or not, those types of things. And because traditionally it's seen as female area, the women's area, so the mother-in-law, the mother, the aunties, you know, sort of dominate the situation, and then the dads get left out of it. And if they're seen, as Delano said, if they're seen as wanting to insist, it's not taken in a very positive way, and often there's a lot of pushback. So we just really have to learn how to open and embrace and allow fathers to take and it's about exactly.
I'm gonna go on a break again. We have Care Tech Tip. We want to help parents use technology a little bit more responsibly. Don't go anywhere after Care Tech Tip. We're back with the gang. Care.
Just like there's inappropriate behavior in person, there's inappropriate cyber behavior. Be proactive and help your child understand what's appropriate and what's not. Discuss in detail what cyberbullying looks like, what's acceptable and what's not. Just like adults, children can feel stronger when there's a screen to hide them. And even the most caring child can easily become a cyberbully without realizing. On the flip side, discuss cyber predators, how to spot them, and how to treat with them. As with anything, keep the conversations light and frequent so that the lines of communication can remain open and easy.
Welcome back to Care. We are in our serious kind of, I guess the whole show is serious, but it's definitely our most popular. We have been getting really, really good feedback. Our Confessions feature, it is where we provide healing as well, because a lot of the people that have come out and, you know, confessed to their childhood, they have found that they have gotten some healing as well, just starting to talk about it. But we've gotten really, really good feedback because our audience have said that, you know, they saw themselves while they were watching it. And some people did not even know that some of these things, they even had issues. So it's really been one of our more popular and I would say effective features this season. So, you know, stay tuned because Confessions is next.
From, you know, I remember illegal substances being sold as well. I would have bought at some point in time. But all of this and everything that I would have done, I would have been involved myself in bullying other kids at some point due to the fact that I was bullied. And so I needed an outlet, and I turned on other students as well. And this would have been due to the fact that I didn't have a stable father figure growing up. Looking back on it, I realize now that had I had that, that father figure, a lot of these things would not have occurred in my life. You know, from getting into drugs and you know, excessive partying and excessive drinking, well into college, well into university. I was drinking excessively and still doing, you know, marijuana and all that stuff. I was severely depressed because all the father figures that I had in my life would have left, and even my own father wasn't very active in my life. So that really did pose a problem in the long run. And going from the environment where even in primary school, you would have seen bullying, and even more so in a less prestigious school, and also being somewhat of a bully myself in primary school, and then heading into secondary school without somebody to check my attitude and my behavior, it just escalated. It went from one stage to the other, and I remember being at maybe not my worst, but it would have been much worse had I not found faith in secondary school. I'd like to say, as my final point, that fathers need to step up, not just because of the crime and all these things. Fathers need to teach their young men how to be men, and they need to teach their young women how they should be treated by a man. I do think a lot of this, a lot of the bullying and the boys will be boys mentality stems from a lack of proper fatherhood, or a lack of fathers in the home generally. So you need to have a balanced system of education, both from your females and your males in the home.
Welcome back to Kit. Today it is all about celebrating our dads. We are discussing the importance of fatherhood. Before we went on a break, we spoke a little bit about, you know, when the dads actually assert themselves and say, no, listen, I want to be a part of things. There's a lot of pushback. And then, of course, when we went on the break, Mr. Freshmouth here was like, well, be careful what you wish for, because then you might get it. And he's right. You know, I mean, we push back and then we say, but you're a deadbeat. You know, make up your mind, society.
Yeah,
so the floor is yours.
Yeah, but we have to be careful what we ask for. If we want fathers to be involved, then that means that you have to create a space for them to be involved. And as Deb said, the mothering, nurturing space is usually seen as a female space. So if we push back, it's going to backfire. Now, we want the fathers to be involved. They're not always too sure how to be involved. They need support in terms of, you know, we're not programmed to be around children. Many of us have never spent any time with children before, so we don't understand the developmental stages, the moods, etc. So we're on a learning curve. And then, of course, there are lots of taboos about men and children. And I think one of the biggest taboos that we've touched on in the group is the incest taboo. And it's particularly relevant about men and their daughters. I have to say that the anecdotes we have heard are on both sides. It's about mothers and grannies and aunties not feeling comfortable when the daddy is too affectionate to the daughter, especially if the daughter is primary school age, heading to puberty. But even the fathers themselves are not too sure what to do with these girls who are getting breasts, who still want to hug them up and sit in their lap, but they're not accustomed to that behavior, not having a sexual connotation. And these are difficult topics to talk about, but I think they're really important if we want to have fathers be engaged not only with their sons, which is what we usually talk about, you know, bonding with your son and doing stuff, but how do you bond with your daughter when you have this kind of vibe going on of, why is he so close to her and what's going on there? And I have to tell you that one of the reasons why that is significant is because there is incest in society, and many women have been damaged by it, and so they're very sensitive to it. So this is not an irrational concern. The problem is that it's not necessarily right in a particular context, and it gets in the way of the healthy relationships. These are the kinds of things we talk about in the group, and we have to have more conversations like that around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my daughter is a real hugger. You know, I mean, she's known Richard all her life, you know, and I can see that she's going to just continue to be a hugger, and she's not going to see any difference. And that's that, you know. Growing up, it was the opposite, because my dad would actually say, no, don't sit on any guy, which means you're not allowed to sit on me. And I could see where that takes away the affection, you know. I mean, my little brother, I walk around naked. You know, he was the one who helped me get dressed on my wedding day, because there was never a feeling. I mean, that's my little brother. It's just gross. Yeah. He never looked at me weird. Like, this is my little brother. This is my ride or die. If I need anything, he's there. Yeah. I was singly pregnant. So, I mean, if I was vomiting, he was the one, like, holding my hair up. And we never felt romantic. And I cannot imagine if I had to have some weird boundaries with my brother. I can't imagine life.
It's cultural, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Sweden comes to mind as a society where nudity is not a taboo thing. It's normal.
Right.
Sort of like what you're talking about. So like within families, you don't objectify the body to the point where it's like, oh, I saw you kind of thing.
Jess was a little bit like, so Uncle Nick's gonna see you in underwear. I'm like, dude, Uncle Nick's seeing me in underwear all the time. Because this is my little brother, dude, you know, like, but whether he's a big man or not, in my mind, I still call him a baby brother, no matter how old he is, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't have to be as far as Sweden. Right here in Port of Spain, some people are comfortable walking around with no clothes, and they are now involved with somebody in a family who covers up themselves going from the bathroom to the bedroom. How do you negotiate that?
Yeah, that's a big negotiation.
Yeah.
I will need support when that time comes. Because I just don't know how it's going to be, because my daughter's 2, and right now I'm in a safe place, but like as she gets older, I'm not sure how, because boys are easy. For dad, right?
But I'm a girl, and my daughter's starting to get a little flesh around there, and when I hug her, I feel it, and I go, oh gosh, I'm touching your boobs, and she'll say, well, it's okay, you know, because
it's normal for them.
I'm hugging, and I'm kind of going, is this okay, you know, because when I'm hugging you, I can feel that my hands like touching you all over the place, that, you know.
Yeah. So you have to negotiate the boundaries, and that's one of the things that as parents need to happen, and it then relates right back to sexuality, and that is another topic that is not talked about much in the pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, birth era, in terms of when can you do what can you do instead, what you don't like, what I might like, understanding my moods. You know, some of the guys have had really difficult experiences with their partners whose moods fluctuate, and sometimes they feel sexually interested and sometimes don't even come near me, and the fathers can't make sense of what's going on. And they attribute it to something they did or something that's happening, when in fact it's all hormones, and it has nothing to do with anything that they did. But we have to have that kind of understanding and those conversations. I mean, I know Debs has done far more of that in terms of the groups that she's done, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as you said, nobody talks about it. So who do you talk to about that, about sex during pregnancy or right after the birth? It should be your care provider. but generally it's not addressed. So it's an area that we really have to focus on and bring out, because that can be really
It's a deal breaker.
Yes, it can cause a lot of relationships to end up with very serious problems. So it's one of the things that we talk about.
Okay, this is a whole other topic again, so I'm going to use this opportunity to go on a break, and then when we come back, we talk about sex and after sex and before sex and pregnancy and all kind of sex, right? Oh, I guess we're getting really sexy here today on K. Don't go anywhere. Happy Father's Day. We're going to talk sex. Welcome back to Kate. Today we are celebrating all our fathers, all our daddies, the importance of fatherhood. And we've gotten into a steamy word here because we're apparently about to talk about sex. Because if we're talking fathers, we have to talk sex, right? It's an important thing for guys.
Well, it's how we became fathers.
And you know what? In fact, my director's in my ear, and I think he's about to, he's just woken up and he's getting excited just by the word.
So where do you want to start?
Okay, so I'm listening to my director now, because now this is actually a really good way to hear what the audience has to say. But it is very weird, and this is what he's saying. It is very weird to have sex while you're a woman pregnant. So are we going to talk about that? Are you going to say?
No professional first.
All of a sudden now.
Over to you then.
Well, I mean, I think Peter referred to the hormonal changes and all that in pregnancy can influence your interest or not. But the communication about it, and that it doesn't have to be actual intercourse. There are alternatives. And usually I tell people, as your stomach gets bigger, you have to get a little creative with positions and all that, because, you know, it gets in the way. But absolutely, you can cause no harm to the baby unless there's something else happening. You know, if there's something else happening with the pregnancy. But as long as everything's normal, absolutely no problem with sex during pregnancy.
Gosh. Poor ladies, they just got all their excuses taken away.
Well, you know, I mean, that's really not fair. I mean, why are you saying excuses? Because the other side of it, of course, and these are, so we have hard conversations in the group. So like,
Well, let's have some hard
Here's just
conversations
one little
here.
one.
He's trying to be so political here.
no, I'm
Seen
not.
him, like, biting
I'm
his tongue.
explaining that this is one of the advantages of having these kinds of spaces where we can talk about things such as her belly's getting big. She's putting on weight. She doesn't look like who I was attracted to before. And this is why I say it challenges the dynamics of the relationships, because if the man was simply attracted to the pretty body and there was no depth to the relationship, there was no intimacy with the person, and there's no sense of a future, then some men lose interest physically. And then that leads to a whole nother set of challenges. It's not just the woman who can lose interest because of hormones, the men can lose interest too. It's also a time when men are particularly vulnerable to peer pressure, to go lime and party, and then to take a little thing on the side, because, you know, and then that opens a whole gateway to mashing up the relationship, basically. And if men are not aware of it, if you're not prepared to say, okay, these are realities that I'm going to have to make a decision about, then you get tempted, and then it's a slippery slope, and it's a whole other set of problems being involved. So it's things to examine.
Communication, right? It really comes down to communication. I mean, and as a female who had a six-pack before, and then you come back and it's like, no matter what you try, this flab that I can cut, like you hold it and like you think you can take a scissors.
Your body just
And
different.
your body is just different. And like there are stretch marks, no matter what you tried, you got stretch marks. And that was really, really, really hard for me as a female to even swallow. And I was the first among my friends to have a baby. So they're still playing national hockey. So they still have all their body in form, and like everybody's rocking two pieces at the beach. And you're just like, am I ever going to? No matter what, it just, your body changes. You know, some people just can't recuperate from it, and it's hard.
And then, of course, if you feel insecure and if you feel inadequate,
Then you can't be sexy.
not just that, but you begin to be needy and you want the extra attention, except maybe he's not feeling it as much, so then you get the challenge. But these are all normal reactions and feelings, and if you're committed to the long term, you just have to kind of grit your teeth and move through it. You try and talk it out, but some things, not everything can be talked about. Some things you just have to let them pass, because if you start talking, it might go in the wrong direction. No, and this is another challenge that we talk about, knowing when to talk and when to just go for a walk, let it calm down, come back in, and refresh.
Okay. So we've come to the end. We're about to close up. So you have about 30 seconds, each of us, to give our closing comments. I am going to say daddies. Well, no. I think first we need to say mummies. Because, Single Fathers Association says it all the time. I hear him ranting all the time that our laws, we want dads to be involved, but we really are not creating the space. So to the government and to the moms, let's really create the space for our dads to be involved. That's my takeaway. Deborah, you're up.
I suppose just to say the Fathers Group, the third Saturday of every month, and you can go on the website or Facebook at Mama Toto and get more information and become involved. As Delano said, two different sides. You can contribute and you can also help somebody else.
What's your website?
It's www.mamatoto.net.
Okay, awesome. How do you spell Mama Toto?
Mamato.
Awesome. Delano.
Right. I would say your kids are your legacy as a guy, and enjoy them, because you're going to get old and you're going to enjoy seeing your kids grow up and have fun later on. So control your property, take charge and guide them in the direction you want, and don't let anybody else push you around or push you away. If you want to be part of your kid's life, just be there, be available, but be a positive influence on them as well. Sometimes you need to know when to pull away as well if you have issues or whatever. But for the most part, most dads, I think you can be upfront and present and be confident.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think that it's just so important to have these conversations, and I think what Mama Toto is doing is something that should be done in the public and private sector, meaning that these kinds of sessions should be held, facilitated, conversations about being a dad and about preparing to be a dad. It's complicated, it's hard, and it's very important work. It's probably the most important thing you do. So, big up dads.
Sweet. Okay, guys, just a few house reminders. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all those different places. Care Parenting, YouTube in particular, is Marsha L. Riley. We've not changed it across the Care yet, so if you've missed any of the past episodes, you can get it at Marsha L. Riley on YouTube. And of course, for summer camp, we have the Just Be Active Academy. That is my summer camp. Delano, yay! His son comes to my camp, and he loves it. Come, Delano, this is your opportunity to tell them that they should come to my camp.
Yes, she took him to learn how to ride. Yeah, I took him this far, but he needed an environment with other kids having fun and just somebody else to show him so he could go kick off and ride by himself. So those camps are great. Good counselors where the kids are comfortable, I think, is the key ingredient of your camps.
Yay! Yeah. Yes, we try to make sure that kids have fun in a safe environment with no shouting, because we don't like shouting. So Just Be Active Academy, check us out and sign up early. And share your dress initiative. You guys would have seen that. That came out of all my wedding dress drama. There was some positive that came out of it. So we have some women that have donated dresses. If you have a dress that's just sitting down there, we can bless other ladies who cannot afford a wedding dress on their special day. So we have come up with a Share Your Dress initiative. So check that out. If you have a dress, holla at me and send it my way, so that we could pass it on to women who cannot afford to look like princesses on their day. Thank you very much for tuning in, for sharing your Sundays with us. Be sure to spread all the love by sharing our page. And see you next week. Bye.